guys? Welcome back to Lily Reads. So in today's video, I am going to be ambitious. I am going to give myself an ambitious TBR this week to start off the new year. I have some books that I knew I wanted to read at the beginning of the year. I couldn't quite fit them in last year, and I feel like if I don't get to them right now, I will not get to them until a really, really long time from now. So I am just going to go for it. I am going to take on wellness. Yes, I am. This book is 600 pages long. And so I feel like if I read 200 pages a day, today, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I can finish the book. I just need to take it apart like that. I am not a girl who enjoy reading long books. I do not enjoy reading long books. I would rather read a bunch of 200-page books than a bunch of 500-page books. That is just me. I do not believe much is gained in books being really long. At the end of 2023, I read a few long books and I thought all of them should have been 100 pages shorter. Every single one of them. And that is usually how I leave long books. I feel like I could have cut out 50 pages here, 20 pages there. And I could have got this book down to 375 pages. But we will see. Every now and then I am surprised and I'm like, yes, this book needed every single page to tell this story. And maybe Wellness by Nathan Hill will be the book for me to say that. This book has been pushed a lot of places, like it was a book of the month book. I saw I had it on display at Barnes & Noble. This book has been pushed, but I have not heard anyone actually read this book. Every now and then there's books like that are being pushed, but like nobody seems to really be reading them. So I am going to read it. I'm going to tell you how it goes, and that's what we're going to start with because I feel like I just got to get it done. If I get it done, I feel like I can do it. The next book we're going to read after that is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I am going to read this on audio. I think I'm going on a road trip on Wednesday. I feel like it'll be the perfect book to read on the road trip. So boom, I love reading thrillers on audio and this would be the perfect time. So might do a little bit of both, but I think I'm going to do fully audio because I told you guys in 2024, I just want to read, like, I don't feel this pressure to always read physically. And if audio is the easiest way to read a book, why not? So I'm going to be on the road, but I do want to read. So I'll do that book on audio. And then a book I will be back to reading physically is Bright Young Woman by Jessica Knoll. Heard good things about this book. Then I heard some people just like don't want to read it at all. I don't know. We will see. I will get to this book. And now the last book, usually I am dead set I can read 4 books in a video, but because Wellness is so long, I do not know if we're going to get to this book. So I'm going to put Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano here and see if we read it. It's here. It's an option. We would go, but we are going to begin with Wellness. Wellness, I'm going to probably give you like so many updates on because it's such a long book. So I'll probably come and talk to you guys about every 200 pages of this book because that's how I want to read it, 200 pages at a time. But I think I can do it. I think big books is one of those things you just got to start reading big books and you can read big books. It's just one of those things you got to do and then you can do it, you know? So why not start the new year reading a humongous book with Wellness? Okay, so this is where we're going to start. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Hello, you guys. I am not here to give initial updates, but I do want to discuss how reading this big book is going. So you may ask, Kenya, why don't you enjoy reading longer books? When I am reading a book that is long, everything I find interesting, clever, well written, and nuanced becomes exhausting. Last month, I read Demon Copperfield, and the book won the Pulitzer, and I thought the book was so beautifully written. But when it got to the last 100 and 150 pages of the book, I was expecting everything to be beautiful. I was expecting characters to do certain things. And I was everything becomes expected. And I stop understanding why me as a reader needs to necessarily be here. I often feel like long books are for people who don't read often, because if you have a long book, you can like chew on it for a really long time and not think about the next book that you want to read. But if you're like me, who has over 300, maybe at this point I would have to count 350 books on my bookshelf I haven't read, I could, and what it's taken me to read this book, or what it will take for me to read this book, I could have read 3 books off of my bookshelf. And so I think it does a disservice to the author when the book is long, because it's just like, I might have found something interesting about you. I might have been compelled by this book, but I'm simply not anymore because it's too long. So that's why I don't enjoy long books. Like, it's not a matter of not wanting to read them, which is true. I don't want to read long books because it takes too much. But it's also, too, I don't enjoy them because I find them exhausting, in a sense that they overrun their welcome. They stay too long, and anything I found interesting about them, I just stop finding interesting. And so I think it sets the writer up, and also I think there is so much finesse and brevity, being able to get a point across and get it across quickly. I think that is almost the real skill of a writer, right? So anyways, I have made it to page 100 of this book. Yes, you guys, I have made it to page 102 of this book, and it don't even look like I started. It don't even look like I started, friends. I'm gonna give you guys initial thoughts when I read another 100 pages tonight. So I'm gonna read this tonight before I go to bed, which won't be a problem, and then I'll give some initial thoughts. You guys, not only is this book long, it's single spaced. These words are like, you're reading 600 pages, baby. You really, really are. But you know what? I've already made to page 100, and that's half the battle. Half the battle. Once I get to page 200, then I'm really going to be like, you know what? I can do this. Because right now I'm like, I can stop and go pick up the audiobook. But I'm not. I am not going to read this on audio. I'm going to stick this out to prove that I can do it. So I'm going to read the next 100 pages, and I will see you guys in the morning after I do that, okay? Peace.
The recovery ratio. What that means is we're going to have 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 8 efforts in a 4-minute block. Today we have 4 of these 4-minute blocks with plenty of recovery in between. The objective of Tabata is to push us cardiovascularly, which means we're going to go all out, get breathless for 20 seconds, followed by a short recovery, right? We're amplifying this workout by staying focused, and every...
Good morning, you guys. It is day 2, and I am so proud of myself because I made it to page 200 in Wellness by Nathan Hill. So let me tell you what this story is about. Then let me tell you my initial thoughts. So in this book, we are following a married couple named Jack and Elizabeth. When we meet them at the beginning of the book, they are living in Chicago. They live in this apartment building that used to be a factory. Jack, the husband, he moved in there because he met the guy who owned the building, and he wanted someone to take photos of the building as it was being renovated. And in return, he got free room and board. So he lives there because of that. And then Elizabeth moved there from New England, and because she wanted to get away from her parents. Her parents were rich, but they were like capitalists and weird and, stealing from the poor to be rich. And so she wanted a new life in the big city. Now, they are not married when we meet them. They live in apartment buildings right across from each other, and they stare at each other through the window. This book is told, we jump between Jack's storyline and Elizabeth's storyline. We get in their head, we get into their feelings, and there's no like, ooh, this is a Jack chapter, this is Elizabeth chapter. We just jump from one another's, POV perspective. And so then they meet one another, they get together. Then we jump way into the future, years into the future, where this couple is married and they have a son and they are building a home. I would say that is the present storyline. The storyline that we are in the present day is them having a son, them building a house, and them being married for a while. And we jump to the past to different storylines. So I think the main storyline is them being married. And this married couple is having issues, they're not getting along, and they're really not on the same page. And you're kind of figuring out why that is, how something that was so pure in the beginning when they meet each other in the apartment building has turned into something to where these two people are not on the same page. That is what this book is about. This book is written like a textbook. It explains why this book is so long and so bulky. This book even has a bibliography. This book is very textbook. Even though I feel like we are getting into the mind of this married couple and why their marriage is, collapsing, you never feel like you're in these people's emotions. You never feel like you really know what's going on. You're kind of just getting the details on what's going on in their marriage and what they're doing in this marriage. And then you, the reader, draw your own conclusions. Things are explained. That's the thing. Things are explained to you more than things are more than you're getting emotions of people. They're kind of explaining how they're feeling instead of them doing something. And then their emotions are attached to those things. Does that make sense? And so the thing that isn't working with this book to me is that you never really care about Jack and Elizabeth. Yes, this story is interesting. That's what I'm going to give it. I am fully in this story. I want to know what's going on and what's going to happen with their marriage. But I want to know because I'm nosy and not because I care either way about Jack and Elizabeth. Another issue I have with this book, the reason why this book is so long is because this book goes off on tangents. It's intentional, but I don't think it's necessary. So let's say I'm eating oatmeal right now. My breakfast today is oatmeal. And so I could this author would write in the book, okay, today Kenya is eating oatmeal. And then the author will go on a 1.5-page story on how oatmeal became my breakfast of choice. That's what this book does. It tells you something about the characters or about an experience, an event, and then it gives you the backstory on that experience, on that event. And so you spend 2 pages hearing a story that really doesn't matter, in my opinion. And then you keep on going on with the story. So you keep taking little exits to get information on how things come to be. Some things are more interesting than others. There's a story about Jack, him having tonsillitis. That was interesting. And then there's other stories that I don't find interesting. Sometimes I feel like this book doesn't have enough to say about its side tangents. This book constantly says things that anyone reading a book this long knows already. It thinks it's being clever and smart, but it's saying things that you already know as a reader. So I'm just this isn't as well learned as it thinks it is. And so I'm just you gave me that whole diatribe just to tell me something I already could have figured. There's this she's trying to get their son Toby to eat or something. I forgot what she's trying to do. And she's telling a story about United Airlines and how they made stuff smaller so people would pay a bigger fee to get things that are better, when in reality, the better is what things actually should be. They just made things smaller. They made things worse so people thought they were getting better. And it's just that's not this clever idea. I'm not taking anything from this. You could have just told them. That's what I constantly feel you're seeing where the word count is. You're seeing why this book is so long, and that's the last thing I wanted to feel. But with that being said, I'm interested. I'm going to finish this book. I'm going to finish this book. I'm not mad at this book. This book, just like I expected, it's just too long. It's too long. It doesn't have interesting things to say at times. And I wish we cared more about Jack and Elizabeth as characters. What you're really holding on to are these moments. And I think if you're a married couple and you've had marriage issues, you could appreciate this book more. Because like I said, this book is almost a textbook on the destruction of a marriage. It reads like a textbook. It has like I said, there's a whole bibliography in this book. And I think if you're interested, this book is a really good book for two people who are falling out of love with each other, or someone who has experienced that, or someone who is deeply interested in that. Me, I like marriage stories because I like getting into the emotions of these couples, how people who could have been so in love at one point, or people who weren't in love, make decisions and how they move through those decisions and them dealing with that. And that's not necessarily this. At times, that is this. This book also has a scientific element going on. A lot happened in these 200 pages, child. This book also has a scientific element. Jack, and this is actually important, so I need to say this. Jack is trying to lose weight. Well, he's trying to gain weight because he's trying to gain muscle. And so he starts doing this, he gets this like fitness tracker, but this tracker doesn't only track fitness. It tracks your marriage, it tracks your sex life, it tracks your sleeping pattern, it tracks all of this. And it tries to teach him how he should have a better marriage. And so this little tracker is causing kind of a lot of issues in their marriage. So there's like this science fiction element going on that's important. This book is called Wellness because Elizabeth works at this place called Wellness, where they try to, how do I explain this? They try to honestly see if placebo effects are real. So like they test out different things to see if it's a placebo effect or if it's real. That's kind of what they do at her job, and they call it Wellness. And that matters too, but you'd have to read while it matters. That's what's going on. I don't even want to explain this book even further. Just know that's what's going on in this book. And so next time I come back, I'm just going to tell you how I'm feeling about it. So today is another 200 pages. And yes, you guys, I'm reading this physically. I am reading this physically. I'm going to be proud of myself once I've done it, because you guys, I have not read a 600-page book since I think I used to read young adult fantasy. I think that's the last time I read a book that was this long, right? I did read Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. I don't think that clocked out at 600 pages. Demon Copperfield didn't clock out at 600 pages. But anyways, I'm about to do some work, and I'm going to eat my oatmeal. The next time you guys see me, my hair is going to look different. I'm doing my hair today. And so I'm going to eat my oatmeal, check my emails, and that's that on that. I will talk to you guys a little later. Peace. Hello, you guys. And actually, good morning. I am making me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for breakfast. I know, breakfast of champions. I have the weirdest breakfast. I'm actually going to eat it on the road. But I need to come and discuss, you guys, the next 200 pages of wellness. So this is the front of the book. Look, you guys, this is all we have left. I am so proud of myself. I did not think, yesterday I did not think I could get through 200 pages of this book, but I put my head down, took it 100 pages at a time, and I did. And I'm just proud that I'm proving to myself that I can like read physically a book this long. But let's get on into it. So the next 200 pages were more of the same, more tangents. The issue with this book is that the plot barely moves. I always tell you guys, I am a plot and character girl. If you just give me plot, I don't want it. And if you give me good characters, but they ain't got shit to do, I also do not want it. I will take character over plot, though. I'm more leaning towards a character-heavy book than a plot-heavy book, because I can follow characters doing anything. When the characters are good, I'm not very picky about what the plot is. But if the characters are bad, I'm very picky about what the fuck is going on in the plot. But the thing about this book is there's neither. The characters aren't good and the plot isn't good. And it's so interesting to discuss how the characters aren't good, because we're given so much information about these characters. We're getting information on their parents' parents. And so it's like, I should know about these characters, but because so much of it is framed like it's in the past and it's given to us in such a like information dump, you don't even really see it as a part of our main characters, Jack and Elizabeth's life. Like, you kind of almost disassociate them from their own like past. And so yeah, these characters are just like here, Jack and Elizabeth. I don't think anyone could read this and have any real tie to Jack and Elizabeth. And I think that's the issue with it. You have no stakes in their marriage. Then you get to the marriage plot line, and that moves at a snail's pace. Like, when we go back to the current world where they're like building a house and they have their son, that plot line barely moves. It's the most interesting of all the plot lines, so I don't know why it's barely moving. When this book gets focused, it's actually a pretty solid book. When we're focusing on this marriage and we're focusing on this idea that people are willing to do anything for happiness, it's actually a solid book. But this author just gets campy. This author wrote this book to tell you about all the shit that they find exciting and interesting. And I'm sorry, it's just not that exciting and interesting. But what I will say, one of the tangents was really good. There was a tangent about Elizabeth's parents, Elizabeth's like lineage, how they made their money. The daddy was a swindler. The person after that created the KKK costumes, and then also her dad was also a fucking swindler. And it was so interesting because like it just shows you how white people get their wealth. It was such an interesting, I like what sometimes the tangents, I get what Nathan Hill is doing on some of the tangents. There's also an interesting tangent about how Jack goes off to college in Chicago and how like he realized there was like city people poor and then there was like real poor. Like everyone around him was telling him how they didn't have any money, their bank account was low, but none of them had to get jobs. He was the only person who had to go get a job. And so eventually he realized these people were not telling the truth about their finances, or they just didn't know what poverty really was. This idea when you live in the city or move to the city from a small town or just from like a rural area, you almost get defensive of your small town. It's so interesting. For example, because I went to the University of Alabama, more out-of-state students go to the University of Alabama than in-state. So you meet a lot of people from all over the country. And so I would tell people where I'm from, and I'm from a city, I'm from Charlotte. Charlotte is a pretty big city in the South. But like, I would have to be defensive over Charlotte. Mind you, I don't even live, like, I don't even live in Charlotte now. And so like, I would be defensive over Charlotte because it's just like, that's my fucking city, watch your damn mouth, you know? And so I thought that was interesting as well. Some tangents are pretty interesting. And then other ones are just not. Other ones are just not interesting at all. The book is called Wellness. Elizabeth works at Wellness. I don't find anything interesting going on with that. No. Most of the tangents you could get it in a shorter way. I get what this book is trying to do. It's trying to lean into the campiness. I think, and I'm not going to say this until the end, but I don't know for sure, this book is just better read on audio. I think if you were listening to this while you were cleaning up your house, you could come in and out of the tangent. You know how you read an audiobook, you don't listen to every single word being said. So you could come in and out of the tangent. So you could be like, well, this isn't that interesting. And you could kind of let your mind float or focus on what you're doing like in front of you and just let the audiobook run. But reading it physically, you are forced to be in these tangents. But the thing is, they don't add shit to the book. Sometimes they do come back around, like Elizabeth or Jack or say something or do something, and like you could tie that to their like past or something that happened with them. But like, you're just not pulled in by these characters and you're not pulled in by the story. And so I'm in the last 200 pages and it's just like, I don't know nothing more about these characters that I knew on page 20, you know? Anyways, I will see you guys later. Peace. Hello, you guys. I come to you guys as a changed woman. The last two clips, I was a fool. I was jaded. I was unkind. And I was rude. Last night, I decided to finish Wellness by Nathan Hill. And rarely does a book get me at the end. Rarely do I get to the end of a book and I'm like, all the pieces are clicking. Especially when it's not a thriller. Most of the time, if I am, kind of mid on a book all the way through, it ends pretty mid. Or sometimes it ends worse and I just hate it. Yeah, Nathan Hill kind of pulled the rug from beneath me. The last 200 pages of this book are some of the best 200 pages I have read in a really long time. Everything clicked. I don't know. I don't know if because I was just in a different headspace, if because I was close to the end, so I knew I was gonna finish it. I enjoyed the hell out of the last 200 pages of this book. And I'm going to give this book 4 stars. It's like all the little tangents Nathan Hill went on, they finally all clicked for me. This book leaves a trail of breadcrumbs that you find in other little tangents. So you gotta read the tangents. And you know how I said you should read this on audio? That might be a lie too. I think physically you're able to pick up on the little breadcrumbs he leaves in other tangents that will lead you to another tangent. I think you pick up on those better. Are there too many of them? Yes, this book is too long. I'm sorry, no book need to be 600 pages. But which I already did, but I appreciate the feat that this book is, the amount of research that went into a book. The best tangent that he goes on, he tries to explain algorithms and he tries to explain how people become radicalized. And so he goes on literally, and I'm not lying, almost a 50-page rant to explain algorithms to us in relation to Jack, the character in here, is dad, and how he behaves on Facebook. And it's so brilliant. It is so brilliant. There's another story in here about how they make prairies, how they burn land to create prairies. That's also so brilliant. Got emotional reading this book. There's a great passage about Elizabeth playing tennis against her father. That's a callback to the beginning of the book. So brilliant. So the callbacks in the last 200 pages of this book, it's so brilliant. The only reason why I think this book does lack is you don't really get to know much about Jack and Elizabeth's relationship. And I'm going back and forth on is that a reason to judge the book? Like I said, a critique of a book is not what a book is not. A critique of a book is what a book is. I think to put that in relation to what this book is, I think you are more affected by what Jack and Elizabeth are going through if you know more about Jack and Elizabeth's relationship. I think it's hard to be invested in Jack and Elizabeth remaining together because so much of the book is not actually about Jack and Elizabeth being a couple. You get so many flashbacks of Jack and Elizabeth's life, but few of them are about actually Jack and Elizabeth. It's almost how other things have played a part in them being together. And that's what I appreciate about this book. I think even the stuff I don't like about this book, it's not a matter of the author just not doing it. It's not a matter of due diligence. It's a matter of intention. I think the author intentionally wanted to show how a lot of relationships we have in our life are based on things that have nothing to do with the people we're in a relationship with. It has everything to do about what we've experienced in this lifetime. And I think that's a great conversation to be had, and this book does that well. But I do think you should be attached to Jack and Elizabeth in some way, and this book seems like it doesn't want to tell a story about Jack and Elizabeth. It wants to tell a story about all the things that Nathan Hill finds interesting, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, I think it's beautifully done, and I think it's so well researched, and I think it's so thoughtful. There's moments in this book that are so you guys know my favorite thing for a book to be is thoughtful. It's to be thought-provoking, to have intention behind, and I think so much of this book does. Even some of the tangents that kind of lost me bring me right back in at times. Jack's storyline is a lot better than Elizabeth. That's another thing I would say. Jack's parts are way more interesting than Elizabeth's parts. But I just think that says more about how well Jack's stuff is done and less about how bad Elizabeth's stuff is done. So yeah, I am going to give this book 4 stars. Who would have thought? I thought I was going to give this book 3 stars the entire time, but I'm going to give this book 4 stars. And I think on reread, if I reread this book, which look how long it is. I think I could end up giving it 5 stars. This is a book I think in another life I will return to. And that feels really good to say. I read a 600-page book, the first book of the year. My first book of the year was 600 pages long. That is absolutely insane. So, next we are going to move on to Lisa Jules' None of This Is True. And so, yes, I will see you guys in that clip. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Like, read a 600-page book, enjoyed it, and I could recommend this book to people. I think if you're willing to go into, I do think this is the type of book a lot of people online will not like, but I think a lot of people in real life would like. I think it's really interesting to have a conversation how certain books, people online be acting too cool for school. So there's certain types of books they will never like enjoy. But this book works for me. It works for me in the way, so let's just chat, I guess. At the end of the year, I always read like 3 or 4 books that like have nothing to do with any video, and they can't make it in any of my end of the year lists, and I don't do December wrap-ups. So no one knows about like 4 books that I've read, but at the end of last year, one of the last books I read of the year was Jonathan Franzen's Crossroads and Don't Cry for Me. I forgot the name of the author of that book. And both of those books are books that I could see people online being really jaded about and having issues with, because like they can't just like something, obviously, right? But I think people in the real world would appreciate both of those books. I enjoy both of them. Like I enjoy books like that. I enjoy books that get sentimental. I enjoy books that are like, I don't know, I enjoy the melodramatic of it all. I enjoy the big life lessons. I love books that try to teach big life lessons. You know, I like when an author casts a big net. I really, really do. But I also like the small nets too. I'm on both sides of it. My issue is when an author doesn't do either. My issue is when the author tries to sit in the middle too much because it's so afraid to have any convictions. I hate when a book seems like it's too worried about coming across as caring too much, getting too campy about whatever the book is about. I hate it. I hate it when it seems like a book is constantly like not committing to its own idea, because it's just too worried it's too worried that's gonna look uncool, you know? And so I appreciated Don't Cry for Me, and I appreciated Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen, and that's also why I appreciate this book, is because all 3 of those books, I think, fully leaned in to the story it was trying to tell, and either you're gonna like it or you're not gonna like it, and that's what I appreciate. So that's what I mean by I think people online wouldn't like none of the 3 books I mentioned, because people online like to be jaded and cool, but I think I would recommend all 3 of these books, and they all kind of give me the same feeling at the end of it. I leave something with them. Whatever. I could go all day, and nerd out about books. But you know what? Wellness, I was wrong. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna go do some work, and I'll talk to you guys later, okay? Peace. Hello, you guys. So, today I went on a little excursion, got out of the house, had a little car ride, and it gave me time to listen to this entire book by Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. So I listened to the entire audiobook. So this is going to be full thoughts on this book. Okay, so let me tell you what this book is about. We start this book and we meet a woman named Jojo, I believe. What's her name, Jojo? Josie. They call her Jojo. Her name is Josie. And Josie is at a restaurant with her husband, Walter. And she sees this lady and she's just like, oh, this lady has a birthday the same day as mine, because she could tell that the lady was celebrating her birthday. So then they meet in the restroom, and she goes up to the lady and she's like, we're birthday twins. And she's like, oh, we are. So Alex, the lady who was celebrating her birthday as well, goes, yeah, we are birthday twins. When were you born? What time were you born? And they realized they were born at the exact same hospital, and they live just not too far from each other. And that like starts our entire story. So Jojo goes home and she like Googles Alex, because she can tell that Alex is kind of like affluent. Alex might be known. And she realized that Alex has a podcast. Alex has a podcast where she interviews people who have done like amazing things, who have transformed their life. And so she gets in touch with Alex because she wants to be on Alex's podcast. So she's like, I haven't done anything extraordinary, but I think I'm going to do something extraordinary with my life, and I want to be on your podcast. Like, we should do a podcast on people who are about to do amazing things. And so Alex is less like, I don't really do that. And she's like, well, let me tell you my story and then see if you want to. So she gets to talking to her and she's like, I have some secrets and my home isn't what you think it is. So boom, what do you think is going on? What do you think of it? And Alex quickly becomes intrigued and it's like, you know what? Yes, I want you to be on my podcast. So that starts Josie and Alex doing this podcast where Josie starts divulging all the secrets in her life, and Alex listens because she wants to have a popular podcast and she believes this podcast is going to take her there. But quickly Alex realized that these secrets get really, really dark and they might soon creep into her life. And what is she going to do? This book starts off so good. You guys know I love a good domestic thriller. And this book puts all the pieces on the board for an amazing domestic thriller. There are so many avenues this book can go down. This idea, how do Josie and Alex know each other? What's going on in Josie's personal life? What's going on in Alex's personal life? What's the history? Why were these women born on the same exact day in the same exact hospital and live down the street from each other? They both have children. What is going on? I spent this entire book wanting to know what's going on. I'm at the edge of my seat. I was almost giddy with how exciting this book was. But this book gets to the last hour and a half of the audiobook and it turns into popcorn thriller sludge, like popcorn thriller slop. Everything interesting about this book quickly becomes uninteresting, and this book turns into your run-of-the-mill domestic thriller. This book ends the way every 2014 domestic thriller ends. There's nothing exciting about the ending. There's nothing nuanced about the ending. There's nothing to talk about with the ending. I am so surprised so many people enjoyed this book, but I just think, I'm going to say this and I might take it back, but I just think some of y'all are so easily impressed by thrillers. I don't know a nicer way to say it. I think some people are so easily impressed by thrillers. Like reading Riley Sager's The Last One Left, whatever that was called, then reading this. Both of these thriller books were loved last year, and I'm just like, y'all are so easily impressed. All it takes is a good bait and switch for y'all to be so gagged. And I'm just like, y'all don't care about characters. Y'all don't care about plausibility. Y'all don't care about gimmicks. Y'all don't care about good writing. Y'all don't care about none of that. Y'all don't care about things being just well mapped out. Y'all don't care about the ending of this book, is going to come, because if it doesn't come, it makes even more of the book stupid. I don't even know how you would have to, if you read it, you get it. The last 10 pages of this book have to come, because if the last 10 pages don't come, the book is even more ridiculous than it already is, And so I just think this book had so many interesting avenues to go down, and it doesn't go down any of them. And it just becomes this, humdrum, your mom's thriller type book. And anything interesting that this book could have been gets choked out of it, gets, suffocated out of the damn book. I am so disappointed. We're already starting off with this is going to be one of my most disappointing books of the year, because it started off so well and it started right up my alley. And I hated the ending. And it's not like I hated the ending because it's just it didn't turn out the way I would. No, I think it was poorly done. Poorly executed, cheap, lazy, and that's not what this book had to be. I read cheap, lazy thrillers all the time. This book didn't have to be that. This book could have just been so much more, and it's not. And I'm sitting here, I cannot wait to get on Goodreads tonight and flip through the good and bad reviews of this book, because I have to understand what you guys could possibly be enjoying about this book. Yes, I get it. The first 70% of this book is good. But I don't see how you can read the last 30 and be so amazed. Because the thing about a domestic thriller is, when it comes to other thriller novels, I can be okay with the ride being good. the ride being good. It was a good ride. We got good characters. But a domestic thriller, why I think domestic thrillers are so hard to pull off is that they all have to be. It all has to be good. The characters have to be good. The plot have to be good. And the twist have to be good. And that's what makes domestic thrillers so hard. Pulling off, the full hat trick, But this didn't do it. This didn't do it. So close. But the plot crumbles. Like, I literally was listening to it in my car and I was just like, yeah, I don't care. Someone goes missing in this book. And so if you read this, when a character in this book goes missing, I was just like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I already don't like books about missing people. But when this character goes missing and we're like looking for him, that's like a spoiler. Why did I say him? But we're looking for him. And I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Like, I know exactly the route this book is going down. It sucks because the entire time I'm reading the book, I'm thinking about what could be the twist. Because it's going to be a twist. And you're like, what could be the twist? What am I not knowing? And because this is called None of This Is True, I'm looking into that. I'm like, what is it? What is it? And like, it's the obvious thing. The obvious thing is it. And then, because it's the obvious thing, there has to be another bait and switch. And of course it's another bait and switch. And it just is not a good one. It's not a good one. It's lazy. It ends lazy. And so I'm going to give this book 2 out of 5 stars. Anyways, we are going to move on to our next book, which is Bright Young Woman. I will see you guys in the next one. Well, in the next one? No, I'll see you guys in the next clip, okay? Peace. Hello, you guys. I'm here to give my initial update on Jessica Knoll's Bright Young Women. So in this book, we are following a woman who is in 2021, and she receives a letter that makes her have to go back to Tallahassee, Florida. And that immediately takes us on a flashback to this woman named Pamela being a sorority sister at Florida State University. And she is the president. Everything's going well until one day a guy breaks into their sorority house and kills her best friend. And she saw the guy. At first, she wrongfully accuses she wrongly accuses this guy of doing it. The guy she accuses is the boyfriend of her best friend who was dead. But she quickly realizes that that's not who it is, just some guy who kind of looks like him. And so she runs into this lady, and this lady she thinks is a reporter or something. I don't remember. And the lady asked her, "Who did you see when you when you saw the person who did it?" And she describes the guy, and she's like, "Yeah, I thought that was him. Yeah, he murdered my best friend too." And this starts us basically looking for a serial killer. This book is told in past tense, so we do have our character in the future telling us things that she knows now. So like, she knows certain things for a fact now that she didn't know at the time. This book, the killings take place in the 70s. Her being in Tallahassee currently takes place in 2021, but we also have this storyline of that best friend of the woman who she meets, who says that this guy killed her best friend too. We have a storyline of that best friend. Her name is Ruth, and we're following her on the days surrounding her death. So we are dealing with 3 timelines. We're dealing with Tallahassee in 2021. We're dealing when Denise was killed, that timeline. And we're dealing with Ruth's timeline where Ruth was getting killed. So we're trying to figure out what the connection all of these women have to each other. Why is this serial killer killing these women? What does he get out of it? Why did he end up in Florida State? Because Denise and them was in Florida State. Ruth was in Seattle. And so yeah, it's weird. The how he is connected to all this stuff is weird. So that's pretty much what is going on. I am 200 pages through the book, and I'm about to sit here in this bed and I'm about to finish the book. I'm so sorry this lighting is like green and ugly. I'm about to finish this book. My feelings so far just meh. I'm not it I This is not my type of like thriller ebook. Like it's just not. I don't really enjoy thriller books like this, like serial killer on the loose. The only thing keeping me reading this book is wanting to know what happens, and that's my least favorite thing when I'm reading a thriller. I like reading a thriller and being entwined in the characters and the world and the setting and the dialogue and all of that. Like I want to enjoy the story. Whenever I'm reading a thriller and just want to know what's happening, I usually don't enjoy them. And that's kind of what's happening now. I don't find Pamela to be interesting. That's our main character. I think her 2021 storyline is absolutely abysmal because we as a reader don't know what it has to do with anything. So it's just like, why am I reading this? Ruth's storyline is also not that interesting. It's just one of those things where it's just like, just tell me. Like I just don't need 376 pages of this. That's how I'm feeling. It sucks because I really wanted to enjoy this, but I also had a sneaking suspicion I wasn't going to enjoy this book. The only reason why I picked up this book was because it was a book of the month book. But if it wasn't, I would not have picked up this book on my own. So I'm actually going to blame myself for why I'm not really enjoying this book. I should have never picked it up. I read the synopsis of this book and I wasn't interested in it. So I don't know why I chose it for book of the month, and I'm sitting here and I'm just as uninterested as I thought I would be. Not my type of thriller. It's just not. It's not a Kenya book. I don't know what to tell you. This is not a Kenya book. This is not the type of thrillers I pick up. These types of thrillers are geared towards a specific type of audience, and I'm not that audience. There's some interesting commentary about police not doing their job and how most serial killers would not be serial killers if police just did the job they goddamn get hired to do and stop harassing black people. There's some interesting commentary about like women and women setting their dreams aside for men, but like altogether, I'm ready for this shit then. That's my thoughts. I will see you guys when I finish though. Peace.
Hello, you guys. I have finished Bright Young Woman, and I was not aware that this is like about Ted Bundy. It's about like the Ted Bundy murders from the women who were murderers' perspective and the people who were affected by that. And so, that being said, I want to continue to say I appreciate the message of this book. This idea that people try to humanize serial killers and people try to make serial killers seem like they are just these brilliant masterminds, and really it's just lack of due diligence done by authorities and people around in circumstances leading to these people being able to harm people. And I think that commentary is spot on. The issue with my enjoyment of this book is that I am not a true crime buff. I'm actually kind of on record thinking people who partake in true crime and do all of that stuff and breaking down people's murders, and I think they're weird. Therefore, the message of this book already hits home for me because I already think people engage in very strange practices when they obsess over true crimes and obsess over serial killers. Like, it's weird. These are people's lives who have been lost. So the message of this book doesn't hit for me. Well, it hits for me. Like, I get it. I agree with the message, but like, it's nothing nuanced for me, right? So I'm left with this story, and altogether, I didn't find the story interesting. I just didn't. This book gave me a headache reading. I was so bored. I was so bored reading this book. I just wanted this book to end, and when it did, I was so happy. I'm gonna have to give this book 2 out of 5 stars. I think if you are someone who's invested in the true crime community, if you're someone who gives a shit about Ted Bundy either way, besides him being absolutely insane and disgusting, like you want to hear a story about the Ted Bundy victims from the perspective of the victims and the people affected, this would be up your alley. Like I said, this is just not a Kenya book, so you cannot really take my opinion on this because this is not a Kenya book. I should not have picked up this book. So do I like appreciate the message of this book? Of course, I agree with the message. That's what I said before, even before I knew this was based on Ted Bundy. But I can only go with my enjoyment, and it's just like, I didn't enjoy the book. I didn't enjoy the book. And if I were to give this book a high rating just because I agree with the message, like, it's not a message I haven't already heard before. Like, I think people who invest in true crime and the way that people do in mainstream media are weird. I think the movies are weird. I think the Netflix specials are weird. I think you sitting around with your favorite meal and learning about your favorite serial killer, or you just sitting at home and claiming certain people are innocent just because you have a tinfoil hat on, like, you're weird. You're weird. You're weird. So, like, I already agree with this message that the people who partake in this true crime stuff don't care about actual victims and the people affected by these crimes, and they need more attention. So that I can fully get on board with. This book, I did not enjoy this book. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 5 stars, but I do think this book is up someone else's alley, just not mine. So don't take it to heart. Don't take it to heart if you like this book, and don't think I don't care about people who are victims of serial killers. I just didn't. That's not my type of book. Like, I was bored the entire time. Like, I was left sitting here like, when is this book gonna end? This book is not interesting. I'm not intrigued at all because true crime and true crime fiction and serial killers is just not my thing. It's just not my thing. So I should have picked up the book to begin with. That's my fault. Anyways, we are going to move on to Dead 11, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Hello, you guys. I am here to give you guys my initial updates on Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano. So this book drops us in to this weird town called Clifford. The reason why we are in Clifford is because this woman named Willow has gone missing, and we are following her brother. Her brother gets a call from her sister's neighbor and says, hey, your sister and her husband haven't been seen for a while, but their trees have been overgrowing in my lawn, and I'm gonna need you to come do something about it because I don't know what's going on. I don't know where they're at. He thinks it's really weird that his sister has up and left because he hasn't talked to his sister in a while, but he knows they've been having some marriage trouble, and he didn't hear nothing about them moving anywhere. So he's just like, so where the hell is my sister? She didn't say she was going anywhere. So when he goes to get the trees, he finds something that leads him to this town called Clifford, and that is the last place that his sister has been seen. So he is headed to Clifford to go find his sister. So this book, we're following a lot of people in this town, and we're trying to figure out, where is Willow? What's going on in this town? Why did Willow go to Clifford? What's going on with our main character, the brother, when he's there? And what's going on? Why do people go missing in this town? So the people we are following is this girl named Lily. Lily lives in the town. She was born in the town. She has lived in the town, but she also thinks the town is really, really weird. Then we're following the brother. The brother is here looking for his sister. She's in Clifford. And we're following the sister before she has gone missing and what led her to go to this town. And every now and then we will jump into the head of other people in the town when the story really needs us to. But that's what's going on. We're in this weird town where weird stuff happens. Things seem to be dated. Things seem to be back in the 90s. People have gone missing. It seems like people are keeping secrets. What is going on in this town? And that is where we get Dead 11. I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it. One of my favorite things in horror books is I like horrific towns, even in thrillers. I love a good mysterious town. I love a good mysterious vibe, a good, like, everything around here is weird. What everyone could be telling a lie. Nothing is as it seems. That's my favorite thing in thrillers, especially horror. My favorite thing in horror is nothing is as it seems. Like, you can't take anything on face value because people could be lying, and that is this. We are getting spooky vibes. I am so intrigued about what's happening. When we go into this town, everyone is watching the OJ trial. Everyone's TV seems to be stuck on the OJ trial. Everyone is watching the OJ trial or stuff having to do with OJ, and it's really weird, and I love it. I love it when things are weird and weird things are happening, but no one's acting like weird things are happening. Oh, I love it. It reminds me of Comfort Me with Apples, that novella that I really, really enjoyed 2 years ago. That's what it reminds me. I just love that vibe where it's just like only one or two people notice that something is really, really weird, but everyone else is just going along with it. I also enjoy that we're kind of being let in on the thing. There's mystery as to why this town is weird. We don't know really the why, but we know weird shit is happening. We are being put in the heads of people who have weird shit happening with them. So that's really exciting. It's not like we're being left in the dark, like, ooh, is stuff really weird? No, we're in here and we're seeing weird shit is happening, but we don't know what's happening with this weird shit. This is way more compelling than I thought this would be. I don't know what I thought this book was. I thought this book was dealing with, like, young boys. I don't know. I made up my own synopsis. That's what you will learn about me. I make up my own synopsis for books. Like, I'll hear about a book, want to read it, right? Just like I heard about this book and wanted to read it. And then I just come up with my own synopsis in the middle. I come up with my own idea of what this book is about. And, like, this book was nothing like I expected to be, in the best way, because that's why I wasn't looking forward to reading this book, because it didn't seem like it was going to be good. But baby, I am enjoying the fuck out of this book, and that is really good to say. So anyways, I am going to finish it, and then I'm going to come and give you my final thoughts. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Hello, you guys. I'm here to give my final thoughts on Dead 11, as well as wrap up the video, because this is our last book. I said in the beginning I didn't know if I was going to get to this book, but I did get to this book, and I'm going to give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Here is the thing, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you were interested in this book, stop watching right now. This book turns into, like, haunted, monstery type of horror, and that is not my thing. I have learned in the past 2 years, I don't even think horror as a genre of literature is really my thing, but I definitely I don't like haunted house stories. I don't even really like ghost stories that much, and I definitely don't like monsters, goblins, ghouls. That is not my thing, and that's what this book turns into, which I figured it was going to do, so I'm not upset about that, but I can never love a book like that. It would just take something very specific for me to love a book like that. But other than that, I did enjoy this book. Even when it does turn monstery and haunting, I still enjoyed that aspect of it too. I thought the characters were pretty solid in this book. So I am going to go ahead and give this book 3.5 stars. I do think if you're someone who really enjoys the horror genre, this is kind of like entry-level horror. Like, you probably won't be shocked, gagged, or anything. You've probably read a lot of books like this, so you probably could skip this one. This isn't a book if you're a fan of horror. I think you need to go run and get, except for the cover being nice. But yeah, I wouldn't say that. But if you're someone trying to dip your toe into horror, you want a monster story, you want a haunting story, you want a creepy town story, this I think is a good book to start with. So I give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Since this is the wrap up, let's talk about the other 3 books that we read. It is so surprising that the 2 books I thought I would give the lowest rating to, I gave the best rating to, and the 2 books I thought I would give solid ratings to, I really did not like. My least favorite book of this video goes to Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. I think this book had a lot of promise, and that's why it upset me the most that I did not enjoy the ending. I think the last 20% of this is absolutely terrible. This book does this weird, it takes this weird misogynistic angle. If you've read this book, what are we supposed to take from Walter and Nathan? This book tries to paint Walter and Nathan as like perfectly fine guys who are a bit flawed. One of them is a pedophile, and the other was a terrible husband who was almost cheated on his wife and was like constantly drunk and leaving her at home. Like, both of these people were not great people and were definitely not great partners to their wives, but they're framed in this story like, you know, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has those days, and it's just like, what's going on there? So this book is like a thinly veiled misogyny, thinly veiled victim blaming, and I'm wondering if I'm missing something. Like, am I missing some sharp commentary that this book is actually trying to have on these things? And it's just not. And here's the thing, I am not someone who necessarily needs my thrillers to have this like moral superiority, this moral compass. I don't need that. I find when books do that, it to be a little flat. But this book talks about the weirdness of Walter and Josie's relationship, and then in the end tries to just paint her as this, just like it was all her fault. Like, I don't know, and maybe I'm missing something, because I guess in the last 10% you can kind of be like, well, things aren't as they appear, but like, as it appears, I'm supposed to just be like, well, he only hurt Josie, but it's just like, okay. And then Nathan sucked as a husband. Nathan's only redeeming quality in this book is that Nathan has money and pays bills and lets our main character have like shopping sprees. She don't have to, and like, that's his best trait. And so we're supposed to be like, ignore the fact that he almost cheated on his wife, ignore the fact that he doesn't come home, ignore the fact that he's constantly drunk, ignore. He gives her money. I don't know. This book has some weird like stances, and I saw in the Goodreads comments that someone said Lisa Jewell has also written a book that has some weird victim blaming as well. I can't speak on that. I ain't read it. But this book takes a really weird angle, and I'm really surprised that people enjoy it as much as they do. But I think a lot of people are more misogynistic than they think they are, so that actually don't surprise me all that much. Let's move on to another book I did not enjoy, Bright Young Women. I did not know this book like pulls from Ted Bundy, the serial killer, and this is kind of like Ted Bundy's victims, their POVs of what happened to them, kind of giving them their agency back and giving them their story back. And for that, I can appreciate it. But I can appreciate something, don't mean I gotta like something. This book was just really boring to me. I don't even have any other deep thoughts than that. This book is boring. I didn't find the characters all that interesting. I didn't find the villain all that. It's just one of those books that, like, if you enjoy true crime fiction in that way, or you enjoy true crime in real life, and you're interested in the Ted Bundy stuff and you have all these deep emotions surrounding that, then I think you could really enjoy this book. I always say this, there are Kenya books and there are not Kenya books. And then most books live in this middle. This goes in the not Kenya book. I don't enjoy books about serial killers. I don't enjoy books about like following people who have escaped serial killers. That's just not my thing. Never has been my thing. I don't know why it's not my thing. I don't even have no big revelations. Not for me. And then the best book I read in this video goes to the 600-page book, Wellness. I said in a clip that you should read this on audio, but I actually take that back. I do think you could appreciate this book on audio, but I think finding the little Easter eggs and seeing how certain little tangents connect to other little tangents and certain little backstories connect to other little backstories, I think it's more fun when you read it physically. I'm not going to lie. I think this is a book that is a complete story. Like, cutting it up the way I did, like coming to talk to you guys at 200, at 400, at 600, I don't think does this book justice, because like, as most people are not making content surrounding the books that they read, so they wouldn't stop to go talk to somebody about it. But if you just take this book and read it all the way through and then have thoughts, I think you really appreciate this book. I really appreciated this book. I was surprised by the ending. Like I said in the clip, the last 200 pages of this were some of the best 200 pages I read this, well, not, of course, this year, because all these kind of sucked. Well, except Dead 11, not you. But, some of the best 200 pages I've read in a long time. So, I enjoyed this book. I did not enjoy doing this vlog, though. I would rather have more winners. And this vlog is lucky that I enjoyed Wellness, because I have this new thing going on in my vlogs. If I don't like 2 videos, I stop the vlog. So the first 2 books I read, I do not like, I end the vlog. That's kind of my hard rule, because I just don't want negative vlogs up of me just trashing books all day, because I enjoy books and I enjoy people who write books, and I just don't think there should be a whole vlog of me hating every single book, right? But luckily, I liked Wellness in the beginning, so that's what kept this vlog going, because if these was the 2 books I started with, this vlog wouldn't have continued. But these are my 4 first reads of the year. Tell me if you read any of these. If you enjoyed Lisa Jewell, explain if maybe I'm not getting something about specifically the Walter storyline. Am I not getting something as to why we're supposed to be like, well, you know, Walter's kind of a victim of himself? Like, am I missing something? Am I missing something? Because let me tell it, Walter got exactly what the hell he deserved. I don't know. I will see you guys.